Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Import Export Hub channel, everybody. Bogdan here, your biased host for the next 10 minutes or so. Thanks for joining me, by the way. I hope you are all doing great. And without prolonging too much this intro, allow me to dive into today's topic, in which I will cover Italy's import and export dynamics for 2023. Quickly looking at how and if some dynamics change in terms of trading partners. And in the second part of this video, I will take a look at the actual products that saw some big changes, at least from a value point of view. And as usual, I will start with Italy's top 10 export destinations that experienced growth in what concerns the value. And as we can see here, special categories saw the largest absolute positive change, and we have some $16.2 billion. And my guess is that this is most probably related with the aid towards Ukraine via NATO and or the European Union. Then we see China here, who had a $3.8 billion positive change from, I don't know, $17.29 billion to $20.5 billion. And also an impressive compound annual growth rate for the last 5 years of 7.14%, which is quite good. And the bronze goes to the US, who had a $3 billion absolute positive change relative to 2022. So from $68.5 billion to some $71.5 billion in 2023. And again, we see an impressive 7% compound annual growth rate, reconfirming that the US is a very, very important destination for Italian-made goods. Other partners in this top 10 list that saw their imports increased from Italy include Spain, France, or Ireland, and ends here with Mexico, who imported $6.65 billion worth of goods from Italy in 2023, some $801 million more relative to the previous year. And here too, guys, we see an impressive 9% compound annual growth rate for the last 5 years. Another thing that I want to cover here in this very, very brief analysis is the geographical coverage of Italy's exports when it comes to these absolute positive changes, as we have both EU and non-EU members with a lot of growth potential, if you ask me, in what concerns Turkey and Mexico. Now, on the negative side, we see that the largest absolute negative changes were recorded in relation with the covert destination called areas not elsewhere specified, with a $6.2 billion contraction. Belgium followed with a $3.4 billion contraction, and Qatar finishes the podium with $1.8 billion, regressing towards the $1.7 billion most probably, as the 2021 and 2022 figures are driven mainly by the exports related with the Football World Cup held in Qatar. Other countries who made it in this top 10 list include the UK, Kuwait, the Russian Federation, or Slovenia, and ends here with Egypt, who saw its imports from Italy shrunk with some 519 million, so from 3.94 billion in 2022 to 3.42 billion in 2023. Moving now, guys, to the import flow. For the positive changes, we see special categories partners, some $4.8 billion. Spain's exports towards Italy increased with $2.6 billion, while Italy's imports from Germany here increased with $2.1 billion from $94.5 billion in 2022 to $96.96 billion in 2023, and the compound annual growth rate for these last 5 years around 4.8%. And if I'm looking carefully, except for special categories and Kazakhstan as well, the rest of the 8 countries are EU members, all with impressive compound annual growth rates. And personally, I'm eager to find out how the imports from Poland will evolve, as I'm guesstimating here that in 5 years' time we will see Italy's imports surpass the $20 billion mark. So guys, these were the positive changes, and now I will move to the negative ones for the import flow, where the Russian Federation suffered the most in absolute terms. It's understandable, really. Some $24.2 billion contraction. China is on the second spot with $9.5 billion contraction, but still on the positive territory in what concerns the compound annual growth rate. And on the third spot, we see Azerbaijan with $8.45 billion contraction from 21.3 in 2022 to $12.8 billion in 2023. So quite a lot. And the top 10 list goes on with, I don't know, Qatar, Algeria, or Norway, and ends here with areas not elsewhere specified, with $1.55 billion contraction. So guys, these were the dynamics in what concerns Italy's trading partners for both the import and export flows. And now I will cover the headings at HS4 level in order to see what actually drove Italy's imports and exports. And on the positive side, for the export flow, we see heading 8703, who contributed the most in absolute terms, some $4.2 billion. Medicine follows with $2.6 billion. And on the third spot, we have commodities not elsewhere specified, with $1.7 billion positive change. And the list goes on with, I don't know, parts and accessories for tractors, dishwashing machines, or electrical transformers, and ends here with yachts and other vessels for pleasures or sport, who saw a $710 million expansion and 11.13% compound annual growth rates for the last 5 years, or I don't know, 60-70% increase relative to 2019. Now, on the negative side of Italy's exports, we see that petroleum oils suffered the most in 2023. We have some $5.5 billion contraction. Platinum, rhodium, and the likes is on the second spot with $1.7 billion contraction, and on the third spot, which ends the podium, let's say, we have electrical energy with $1.3 billion contraction from, I don't know, $2 billion in 2022 to just $650 million in 2023. And the list goes on with two energy intensive headings, so tube, pipes, and hollow profiles and flat roll products of stainless steel, who had $830 million contraction. And the top 10 list ends here with petroleum gas, so heading 2711, who had a contraction of $508 million. Even though from a compound annual growth rate point of view, it still has a positive double-digit figure, so almost 42%, as Italy acts as an export gateway for the region, for neighbors like, I don't know, Albania, Slovenia, or Switzerland and Austria. Anyways, moving now, guys, to the import flow. For the positive changes, we see that the heading representing passenger cars had the largest absolute positive change, some $10.8 billion. Then we have inputs for the medical industry, let's say, like hormones, who had a $3.3 billion positive change. And on the third spot, we see parts and accessories for tractors with $1.4 billion positive change. And the top 10 list goes on with electric accumulators, for example, or meat of swine, and ends here with heading 8702. So vehicles for the transport of 10 or more passengers, who in 2023 saw almost a $614 million positive change, and a compound annual growth rate for these last 5 years of 11%. Moving now to the negative side and quickly looking at these top 10 changes, I see a lot of commodity related headings here, and the largest absolute negative change, as we can see, happened in relation to heading 2711. So petroleum gases, who saw a $35.5 billion contraction in 2023. Electric energy followed with $7.8 billion, and then petroleum oils with $6.5 billion, which finishes this podium, let's say. And the list goes on with coal or unwrought on aluminum, and ends with flat-rolled products of iron or non-alloy steel, who saw a $1 billion contraction. So from $3.28 billion in 2022 to $2.25 billion in 2023. Even though in terms of compound annual growth rate, this heading still has a 5.57%, but most probably it will regress to pre-pandemic figures, or I don't know, $2 billion at most in absolute terms, as Fiat, for example, is slowly but surely increasing its production in Poland instead of Italy, and consequently the demand for flat-rolled iron or non-alloy steel is diminishing. And guys, with this last sheet being covered as well, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I really hope you've liked it. Don't forget to hit those small vanity buttons below this video, and as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.